The absolutely incredible video game Cuphead starts out with the two main characters being forced to strike a deal with the devil to save their souls. And that concept very quickly inspires, in my mind personally, imagery of grim tales and folklore. So I thought it would be kind of fun, and since I've been getting lots of requests from my subscribers to do a Cuphead-focused video, to take some of the bosses from Cuphead and redesign them into folktale sorts of monsters. And of course, this is kinda just another excuse to take cartoony sorts of characters and redesign them into more fleshed out, creepy versions of themselves. But what the heck, I like making that kind of stuff, people like watching it, so why not do more of it? So let's get into it, shall we? Let's go. I'm gonna fix the squeakiness eventually, don't worry. But let's go. Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show.
Tales of poor, unsuspecting souls making deals with a devil at a crossroads run rampant through taverns and small villages these days. Because of this, many know it is never worthwhile to trade your life to Hellspawn for trivial, superficial achievements or cravings. In a deal with such a fiend, you never truly gain more than you lose. Apropos of that knowledge, many would suspect that those least likely to strike a deal with a devil would be one who hunts mysterious and supernatural entities for a living, such as a member of the well-renowned Van Helsing family, to whom I am a ward and research assistant. And yet, Annelies Van Helsing, granddaughter to Abraham Van Helsing, has done that very thing. I was alongside her at the time, assisting her in summoning the devil who'd been rumored to be appearing to travelers at any crossroads near a casino called the King's Dice. This was one of the unfortunate times in which it was irrefutable that I'd be an asset in the field with her, as I'm the one who keeps memorized all the incantations and rituals that can summon a devil, such as the one we hunted. We were not there intending to strike a deal with the devil, obviously, and yet, to little surprise, when we drew him to us at those crossroads, he was a very charming and devious being, despite his menacing, skew-eyed, goat-like appearance. He recognized Annelies's family crest quickly, and claimed he was happy to see her, and that he could assist her in her work. He claimed many unsavory beings and creatures had struck deals with him and owed him a debt they'd refused to pay. As a result, he felt it more than fitting that they pay with their lives at the hands of a Van Helsing, and he was more than willing to provide her with their locations and abilities if she spared his life. Now this, of course, from afar seems like a more than fair deal, but it coming from a crossroads devil is the only red flag one should need to realize that it is not worth agreeing to. Annelies may not have been signing her life away, but in my opinion, which I stated quite firmly to little recognition, she should have been well aware that in a deal with the devil eventually always wins. The first of the Crossroad Devil's conspirators that we sought was one that had already drawn some attention from the Van Helsings. Tales of her had been told as words of warning to children in small towns in France. They were told that if they wandered too far alone into the woods at night, they'd come across a sweet scent that would draw them to the castle of the Bonbon Witch. She'd appear at first to be as sweet and inviting as the candies from which her castle is made. She introduces herself as a baroness to this candy kingdom, and makes you feel welcome and your presence appreciated. She even has adorable little minions made from sweets that wander around her grounds and encourage travelers to take a bite of her enticing abode. Of course, the moment you do this, you'll begin to feel queasy and faint. Soon after, your body will fail you and you'll fall to the ground, your eyes beginning to droop shut, only to see the pawns of the witch and her herself looming towards you with a ravenous gaze. The witch will twirl her cane and in doing so magically convert her lower half, once appearing as a vibrant and elegant dress into the maw of a horrific candy fiend. Tendrils will shoot forth from her and wrap you up, and hopefully you'll fall unconscious before you're pulled in and chewed apart by the cruel Candy Witch. Personally, I cannot imagine myself having any interest in taking a bite of a residence made from sweets. Even without the knowledge of this tale, who knows how old those candies could be and what manner of forest creatures may have urinated upon those walls. Ugh. Anyhow, Annalise's deal with the devil gave us little new information about this witch, other than more specifics about her exact location. I suppose that was worthwhile information to have and made hunting her all the more prompt an activity. Upon our approach, the witch very quickly locked herself away in her tower and sent her minions to try and slay us for her. This, of course, resulted in myself getting far more running in that day than I would have liked, while Annalise reveled in the battle. When many of the minions were defeated, the Baroness appeared atop the walls of her castle and fired upon us with a blunderbuss made from sweets. When that failed, she twirled her cane around and her entire castle awoke into a beastly monster akin to the one that she can spawn from her dress. The beast battered me around quite a bit, of course, but soon enough the witch found she was no match for the sharp shot of a Van Helsing. The next being we looked into was a Jinn, or genie, a type of being we'd dealt with before, though never quickly or easily. They are magical beings who can shapeshift, turn invisible, and do all manner of trickery magic to fool people, and often to do much worse. They are ancient enough beings to even have mention in the Quran, the religious texts of Islam. In the texts it is stated that it is highly frowned upon for people to worship a Jinn, though many have been very tempted to do just that. More often than not, we've hunted down these treacherous spirits in Arabia, though they have been found in other parts of the world as well. This one we sought, under the devil's advisement, had made a home for itself in Egypt. As some jinns have before, this one was bound to an object, in this case a lamp, though that was doing little to strain its magical abilities. This was a result of his deal with the devil. The lamp had made him a slave to whoever found the lamp and rubbed it. He was tired of this occurrence and attempted to hide away in the desert, even going inside a sealed tomb for peace and quiet. But eventually, tomb raiders found him and took advantage of his abilities once more. The jinn's deal with the devil meant that he would be totally free from servitude, even if someone found and rubbed his lamp. But he'd also meet the devil once every 13 months to grant the devil whatever he craved. The Jinn had allegedly missed the last 2 meetings with the devil, hence us being granted information from the fiend on how to hunt him down. It wasn't long before we were in Egypt in the region disclosed by the devil, and were hearing tales of those who'd fallen prey to the Jinn. It seemed it was now reveling in taking revenge on humans for thinking they could enslave such a powerful spirit. He would seek out people with a strong desire for wealth or power, place his lamp in their path, and hope that they'd rub the lamp to try and take advantage of his powers. He'd then act as though he was under their servitude. Then, once they'd made their first wish, he'd grant them a cruel opposite to what they desired, taking any wealth from them, weakening their body, even turning them into a speechless mule. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure how Annalise ended up getting close enough to defeat the Jinn. When we finally located him, I spent much of the time being chased by an oversized marionette doll magically spawned by the being, as well as a floating parade of pyramids that were firing beams of dark lightning. Its defeat came simply by Annalise destroying the lamp, as if a Jinn is bound to a physical object, the destruction of such object leads to its demise. She did praise me upon its defeat for distracting it so well, so I suppose I was helping more so than simply by providing information. Though, to be honest once more, the latter is my preferred form of assistance. The creature we seek next from the Devil's roster is a sea Gorgon. Gorgons are not new to the Van Helsings, though they haven't hunted any in my time assisting them. It is also quite uncommon for one to reside predominantly in water, but the deal this one struck with the Devil made her a very unique case. Prior to becoming a Gorgon, this creature was a young woman named Maria. She loved the seaside and spent much of her days by the beach. She was also a very flirtatious woman who many of the men in town lusted after, and she'd often encourage their desires of her without actually having any interest in them herself. The only man in town she craved was married and faithful. For a while, anyhow. Eventually, Maria managed to seduce the man, and his wife discovered the treachery. She prayed to the ancient Greek goddess Athena to curse the seductress in a similar regard to the mythical tales of Medusa. Her prayers were apparently answered, as Maria was turned into a snake-like creature whose eyes could turn any who looked upon them to stone, and her first victim was the man she'd just lured away from his wife. After turning a man to stone, Maria was chased from town and spent time hiding in seaside caverns, where she'd lure in passers-by to petrify. But soon, brave warriors would seek her out to hunt her, and many got very close to slaying this Gorgon. This was when she struck a deal with the Devil. She was sick of adventurers seeking her out on land, so she wanted a home where she could more easily avoid being slain in her sleep. Not only did the Devil grant her the ability to live and breathe underwater, but he gave her the ability to control sea life around her. Now she lurks in the ocean waters, hunting down and petrifying whole ships at a time, causing them to sink to the depths of the sea, where she crafts a proverbial kingdom of stone subjects to keep her company. What comes for us will be far from a simple hunt. Gorgons are difficult prey without additional abilities, seeing as how we cannot look directly upon them without risk of turning to stone. But having one able to slink off into the sea only to arise anywhere around us will make her a more than dangerous foe. At least a seafaring hunt will mean I can't be chased on foot by any of her seaward minions. Though, seeing as how I am a far faster runner than I am swimmer, I may regret seeing this terrain as providing any positive changes.
So, Cuphead, Folktale Creatures, are either of these things you want to see me work with again? Let me know in the comments. This is actually the second episode in what could be a series on this channel. I did Monster Hunter Creatures as Folktale Beasts earlier. I'll link that video in the cards. I think the art might have turned out a little bit more interesting in that episode, but I do like how both turned out. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring note. And the thought I want to leave people with today is a line from a motivational speaker that I really like named Lisa Nichols, and I don't really know what context to put it in to make it an insightful, inspirational line, but it just really stuck with me when I heard her say it, and that's, I like myself, so your like is extra. It basically just goes back to a concept I've talked about lots before, which is that if you like yourself, you don't need other people to like you. With that said though, this is a YouTube channel and likes do help, so if you haven't hit the like button, that would be great, but I also, don't need you to. Anyway, I hope that's inspiring to someone out there. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday. Famous video game characters as fantasy armors. I'll see you there. Goodbye.